Welcome back in, everybody. It's the 21 off season. It's the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's Patrick Mahomes. This time a contract restructure that they just did a day or two ago, getting ready for the off season. So they want to have plenty of freedom to make a lot of moves here, just kind of anything that they want to really get into. This kind of sets the base for that. The last Mahomes video I did, I asked several of you a very technical question with a very technical answer needed, and that was, can they even restructure the Mahomes contract? Now, if any of you already responded in the comments and have the correct answer on that, I appreciate it. I haven't yet had time to look through those comments yet, but Brett Beach went ahead and answered the question for me by going ahead and restructuring the Mahomes contract. And the question was this: can Kansas City restructure a contract that basically has no unguaranteed base salary built into it? And the technical answer to that question is yes, they can, because they're allowed to take the roster bonuses and convert that into a restructure package, which adds numbers onto future seasons. Blah, blah, blah. Long and short of that is, yes, they can restructure the Patrick Mahomes contract. They went ahead and did just that a couple of days ago. Before we get into the Patrick Mahomes contract, and this is a numbers-heavy video today, I try to balance some of these videos out with more than just numbers, but today it's all numbers. Okay, before I get into that, I want to start off with where we left off in the last video, and that is this number right here. After letting go of Eric Fisher, after letting go of Mitchell Schwartz, they have $45 million before they touch the Patrick Mahomes contract. $45 million. Is that enough money to get through this offseason? The answer is no, because that's just barely enough to pay 42 players a little bit over $1 million each, which wouldn't be enough to pay for Dr. Laurent, who's making 4 3/4 at guard. It wouldn't be enough to pay your 2 running backs, who are each making more than $1 million. It wouldn't be enough to pay for your kicker, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they had to do something here, and basically Kansas City had two choices. After letting go of Fisher and after letting go of Schwartz, and that's a whole different topic of conversation about whether or not they should have done that. We did that in the last video. But after they did that, they had two choices. They either go through and they start restructuring some of these big contracts to make more room for 2021, or they release Tyrann Mathieu. That was basically the only two choices. Either release Mathieu and you get somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it was $14 million, $15 million, I forget exactly, or you restructure some of these other contracts. They might not be done restructuring, depending on how aggressive they want to get in 2021. But their choice was, we're going to restructure Patrick Mahomes instead of letting go of Tyrann Mathieu. And by the way, I'm okay with that. We'll walk our way through the numbers, but this isn't killing your salary cap for the next few seasons to do this amount of restructuring, especially when you consider that this is kind of an unusual year with the COVID cap, and you know good and well, all things being back to normal, it looks like by the next season that all the salary caps will go back to normal numbers in 2022. So I like the idea of keeping Tyrann Mathieu around for 2021. I didn't like the idea of having a defense without him in it in 2021. So I agree with what they're doing right here. I think it's exactly the right thing to do. Even though I hate restructuring, I hate it, I think it's the right thing to do here by the time you consider everything that they're doing. They've already made two tough choices to let go of Schwartz and Fisher. They're already going to have to rebuild that offensive line some way, somehow in this offseason. It's probably not going to be as good in 21 as it was in 20 and 19 and 18, or as it might be in 2022. You kind of sort of hate to see the defense take a massive hit by losing a guy who's as good as Tyrann Mathieu has been for them for the past two seasons. So I think this is the right thing to do, even though I don't like restructure, and I agree with this one. What that does then, it gets you off of this $45 million. How does it do that? Well, here's what Patrick Mahomes was going to make before the restructure over the next 10 seasons. And he even has some money in 2031 that I didn't include because it doesn't matter for today's conversation. These numbers come from Spot Track and from Over the Cap. I love both websites. You know, you go back 15 years, we didn't have websites like Spot Track and Over the Cap. We didn't have video resources like All 22 on NFL Game Pass, which I love. I recommend it to you guys. We didn't have guys on YouTube who were breaking down videos for us and showing us different guys on different plays. We didn't have a lot of that. I love every bit of it. I use it. I refer to it. I learn from it. So thank you, Over the Cap, and thank you for Spot Track for these numbers today. Okay, before the restructuring, it was going to be 25 mil, 36, 47, 44, 46, and you can see the rest of the numbers. Already pretty stout numbers. Already going to be a challenge financially to put together a top team every single season. What they've done here in restructuring, I'm going to move to the other side of the board for a second. In 2021, after they get done restructuring, this number now becomes $7.4 million. Okay, so they've got a much smaller number here at $7.4 million. In 2022, in 2023, 24, and 25, they've now added cap to each of those seasons. And those numbers look something like this in each season. 4.3, 4.3, 4.3, and 4.3. So they've got a short-term benefit in 2021, and they spread that out over the next 4 seasons. They're not allowed to spread that out over any more seasons than that. Won't go into that today. That's a whole interesting story all by itself. But basically, the Patrick Mahomes cap number 2022, instead of being that $36 million right there, it's going to go to a little over 40. In 2023, already a stout cap number of 47. That's a large, large cap number. Instead, it's going to be 51. And if I've got any of these numbers here mixed up, I'm sorry. They're all pretty close. If I've got one mixed up today, I apologize. 44 in 2024, already a big cap number. That instead is going to be 48. And in 2025, what was going to be a 46 cap hit for Patrick Mahomes will now grow to $50 million. So you can see in a very sloppy fashion here, you can see what was already a big cap hit for Patrick Mahomes now grows over the next 4 seasons by $4 million each season. So this isn't a killer. You know, this is kind of a necessary evil. It was either do this or let go of Tyrann Mathieu. I know some of you might be saying, well, couldn't have we let go of anybody else? If you did, you might have had a little bit of cap savings in 2021, but it wouldn't result in any real cap savings because the dead cap hits would then hit in 2022 as well. So while you might be saving a little bit of money in 2021, you wouldn't be saving anything overall. The only real way to save cap space was let go of Tyrann Mathieu. Short of doing that, it was to restructure, and that adds money onto these other seasons, 22, 23, 24, 25. Not massive amounts. We're talking about $4 million each season. This is very different, and this is where I really like what Kansas City is doing, how they're working their way through this. This is very different than what Philadelphia has done and what New Orleans has done. Both of those teams, and especially Philadelphia, have restructured and restructured and restructured and added more restructures on top of that. I'm not criticizing those franchises for doing that. Both of those franchises had reasons for trying to keep a core group together and trying to kind of hit that Super Bowl window, if you will, and it just didn't pay off. Now, I wouldn't have done what they did, so I guess in a sense I am criticizing those franchises, but I understand everybody's got a different way of trying to do things, and I don't believe in just any one way of doing things. But my point is this: Kansas City has not restructured so much that their future caps are just kind of weighed down and fat and heavy and sluggish. So far, it's 4 million, 4 million, 4 million, 4 million, and that's okay, and that's pretty safe. And in all honesty, you've already got to deal with this Patrick Mahomes cap hit. It's already big. It's not going anywhere. They might not be done restructuring yet. They may dip back into the well one more time, and here's why. Once you get done with this right here, and that's going to save them $17 million in 2021. That's the 17 right there, $17 million. That $17 million added to this 45 that they already had to work with gives them $62 million. How far does that go? Basically, the $62 million allows them to pay everybody the minimum, either $750,000 or $1 million, somewhere in between. It allows you to pay your guard, which is Dr. Laurent. It allows you to pay your kicker. It allows you to pay those running backs who are already making more. It allows you to pay your backup quarterback, Chad Henne. It kind of accounts for everybody who's already on the roster. And it basically, it basically gives you another $5 million to work with. And that $5 million can be used to re-sign Ward or to re-sign Wiley, or it can be used to go out in free agency. So $5 million there to work with gives you a little bit of breathing room, but not a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas City doesn't come back here and either do a June 1st, a post June 1st cut on somebody, or if they don't restructure one more contract during this offseason. And you don't want to restructure too much again, but again, if they could just get another $10 million, it would pop maybe another $2 million in each of these years. Yeah, it makes it a little more tricky, but that's kind of a soft way of navigating your way through. I want to win in 21, but I want to be healthy beyond 21 as well. And that's kind of where Kansas City is right now. With that, give or take $1 million, they've got about $5 million to play with there. And that's either to re-sign people or to go out in free agency and try to find a bargain or two. The question is this: if you're Kansas City now, how aggressive do we want to try to win in 2021? Because every dollar we spend in 2021 on a free agent or re-signing somebody that we really, really want to have back, or re-signing a couple of guys that we want to have back just to make sure we don't lose too many people all at once, every dollar they spend now past that $5 million is going to add a little bit more burden to these seasons right here. And so the question is, how aggressive do we get in 21? Or do we kind of sort of, because we already know we're going to have a pretty good team in 2021, do we kind of sort of allow 2021 to be kind of a transition year where we start to segue into the Mahomes era, the new Mahomes era of the big contract, and we kind of start to redirect the offensive line, and maybe after 2021 we kind of start to redirect the defense once again to make sure, and this is the important part, to make sure that financially in 2022 and beyond, we are healthy. We have a lean, efficient operating, because by the way, these Mahomes numbers are top heavy enough, right? They're fat enough. They're going to make us sluggish enough financially. How much more do we want to add to that just in order to win in 2021? Now, they can't say that. Brett Veach and Andy Reid can't just come right out and say that, but I can. That's the choice that they have to make. As fans, we're like, yes, we want to all-out win in 21, but all-out win in 22 and beyond. But in all reality, 2021 should be, and probably will be, kind of a little bit of a transition year. They're still going to be good. They might win the Super Bowl again anyway. Mahomes is that good. You've still got a lot of weapons there on the offensive side of the football. You've still got a lot of guys coming back on the defensive side of the football. I don't see a whole lot of other teams out there in the NFL getting a whole heck of a lot better than what they were last year. Kansas City was already better than just about everybody in the NFL last year. So I think no matter what Kansas City does, even if they don't add free agents, even if they allow some of these people to walk, Kansas City is going to be very good again next year. The question is, after having done Mahomes, after having done Fisher and Schwartz, how aggressive do we want to be in the 21 off season for 2021? And balancing that, how healthy and efficient financially do we want to be in those other years, so we make sure we still have a chance to win in those other years. 2022, the cap numbers go back to normal. You get past all this COVID cap nonsense, and you should be back to somewhere around $220 million for an overall cap. I know some of you are going to hear numbers that are larger than that, but that's just generally not going to happen until the new TV numbers hit. And even then, I think that's going to be kind of escrowed out. And we'll see those numbers kind of grow gradually over the next decade, just like we did for most of the last decade, okay? But having said that, that's kind of what Kansas City is looking at. Those are the Mahomes numbers. 45 plus 17 gives you 62. Most of that is already spent. Gives you about $4 to $6 million, $5 million, somewhere in there to play with a little bit, re-signings and free agency. The rookie class is already accounted for because whenever you insert the rookies in, you just take out 7 guys who are already making a league minimum, and you don't count those guys anymore because they're gone. So you don't have to worry about re-signing the rookie class necessarily, but you do have to worry about re-signing people or free agency. All right, I think we covered that in pretty good depth. A little bit sloppy again, but there's so much there to cover, and I try to keep this video short. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Goodbye.